me to call people. Hello. Hi. Hi. We are about to start a keynote, so please grab a seat and come. Hello. Hi. Hi. We are about to start a keynote, so please grab a seat.
Kory Mathewson.
And come. Hello. Hi. Hi. We are about to start a keynote, so please grab a seat.
Kory Mathewson.
Hi, Kory.
Hi there.
Hi, Kory.
Hi there.
Yeah. Hi, Kory.
Hi there.
Katie's on. Yeah. All right.
Hi there.
Katie's on. Yeah. Did I share the sound? Share sound. Yeah. Did I share the sound? All right. So hide this. Share sound. Panel. Yeah. And did I share the sound? All right. So hide this. Share sound.
Do you want me to test it?
Yeah. And did I share the sound? All right.
Hi, I'm Kory Mathewson. I'm an improvisational performance artist, and I'm a research scientist with Google DeepMind. Today,
did I share the sound? All right.
Hi, I'm Kory Mathewson. I'm an improvisational performance artist, and I'm a research scientist with Google DeepMind. Today,
did I share the sound? All right.
Hi, I'm Kory Mathewson.
No, it's. Did I? No, it's here. I killed the. But I think it's live.
Okay. Welcome. We're delighted to invite you to the last keynote of ICCC 23. And to introduce the keynote speaker is my colleague, Kate Larson from Waterloo's Computer Science Department, who is also a colleague of our keynote speaker. Welcome, Kate.
Okay, thank you, Dan, for the introduction. So I am delighted to introduce Kory Mathewson, who, as Dan mentioned, is one of my colleagues at Google DeepMind, based out of Montreal. He is interested, among many things, understanding intelligent interaction between humans and machines, particularly with interactive conversational systems and creative applications of AI. In his, spare time, he is also a theater director and an improviser, and who performs around the world with rapid fire theater and Improbotics. On a personal note, I've always greatly enjoyed chatting with Kory over a wide range of topics, including sort of computational creativity, the impact that generative AI has on people working in this field, as well as many other topics beyond. So with great delight, I'm going to sort of press play on Kory's talk. It is pre-recorded, but Kory is sitting there online. And so afterwards, we'll sort of open it up to a Q&A sort of interactive session with Kory.
Hi, I'm Kory Mathewson. I'm an improvisational performance artist, and I'm a research scientist with Google DeepMind. Today, I'm excited to share some ideas and work with you in a talk titled The Show Must Go On, Co-Creating with Artificial Intelligence. The show must go on is a common phrase in show business and the arts, and I think it's also a good metaphor to heed in the development of creative technology as well. It speaks to the importance and benefits of getting new work on its feet, or a new technology into people's hands, before you think it's 100% perfect and 100% ready. I'll tell you this story in 10 beats. I'll start with an introduction to myself and my work, and then I'll present the intersection of artificial intelligence and creativity, and how I believe that theater is an ideal experimental medium for new creative technology. I'll follow with two of my own projects, Improbotics and Dramatron, and I'll share lessons learned from co-creating shows with artificial intelligence. I conclude with some thoughts on the evolving creative process and the importance of ethical considerations in the creative tech space, and I'll leave you with some thoughts on the future. But first, let's start with an introduction. We can start at the beginning. Who am I and how did I get here? Well, I'm Kory Mathewson, and as you might know, I do work at the intersection of artificial intelligence, theater, and scientific research. Currently, I'm working as a senior research scientist at Google DeepMind in Montreal, Canada. I really enjoy fusing my artistic performance with state-of-the-art AI technology. My research centers around exploring human-AI collaboration and the potential to transform art. I'm dedicated to ethical creativity and responsible innovation, and I believe that one of the best ways to achieve both of these goals is through meaningful dialogue and rich interaction between artists and technologists. Most people are surprised when I tell them I've performed and taught improvised theater for about twice as long as I've been working on artificial intelligence. Indeed, I've been working as a professional improviser for nearly 2 decades, and since one fateful festival in about 2015, I've incorporated artificial intelligence into my creative practice. It was at a theater festival in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada in 2015 where I had the amazing opportunity to perform alongside these two. It was an opportunity that changed the course of my life. On the right, the brilliant director, producer, and improviser Jacob Bannigan. Jacob taught me that all of art is uplifting your co-creators. And on the left, the talented Olivier Award-winning director and writer Adam Megiddo. I told Adam about my vision to perform theater alongside AI and chatbots and robots, and I told him the tech wasn't quite ready yet. And he looked at me and he said, "It'll never be ready. But the show must go on, and it'll get better every year." So, in April of 2016, I did my first improv comedy show alongside an AI-powered bot that I created called Piggy. The show was a technical nightmare. There were so many things that went wrong. There were so many unforeseen challenges. I wrote up a blog post that I link here on the entire experience. In a way, it was relieving in that I could put the world of AI-augmented theater behind me and move on to other studies. Little did I know at the time that it was only the beginning, because that blog post about Piggy and the failures therein helped me to find a collaborator, shown here, Piotr Murawski. Piotr and I collaborated to develop artificial improvisation of all sorts, including an interactive robot named Blueberry, performances that took place simultaneously in multiple theaters around the world with multiple audiences and multiple humans and multiple chatbots that we called Human Machine, and we co-founded Improbotics, which we're still working with and actively producing and staging shows with today, because the show must go on. I've also served as a technical and AI consultant on several productions, including the shows Surveil by Hip Bang and I Don't Even Miss You by Tiny Bear Jaws. I worked with both of these performances to incorporate novel creative technology into their narratives, productions, and performances. I like to work at the intersection of technology and artistic practice because I believe that the best art is rigorous, technical, precise, and scientific. And the best science is creative, novel, inspiring, and artistic. So now that you know a bit more about me, let's explore the interface between AI and co-creativity together. What is co-creativity? Co-creativity is the collaborative act of creating together. It's the creative dialogue between the artists which lead to the creation of art. In theater, it happens between the performers on stage and those in the audience. Co-creativity is also manifested in the interaction between the artist and the tools and the techniques and the technologies of creation and of that performance. So in theater, this can include stuff like lights and wardrobe and props and sound effects and projection. Theater is an act of co-creativity, and the audience's role is paramount. They complete the loop of creation through their interaction with art. From creator to creation to interaction with creation to creator and back. And so the co-creativity circles expand. The theater is full of interactive experiences. Audience members are often invited into the creation of the production. Often this happens passively through observation and maybe the occasional ovation if you're lucky. But as we move into technology-augmented theater, audience interaction can leverage all kinds of other channels, like chat or text message or audio and video responses, such as in my 2019 production of Improbotics, where audience members engaged in text message conversations with a phone number that was behind it an AI-powered chatbot. The lines from the human side of the conversation were then used as dialogue later in the show. This tightly coupled co-creativity between artist and audience and AI. And these co-creative interactions need not only exist in the moment of performance. Indeed, interaction could begin well before they enter the venue and end well after, the audiences, that is. For example, by using information that ticket purchasers provide, components of the show can be personally tailored or adapted, as was done expertly in Hip Bang's show Surveil. The show used a combination of rapid back-channel hacking and online information gathering to bring real details of audience members into the live production. Of course, all of this was done with the explicit informed consent and knowledge of participating audiences. Still, the effect was surprising and hyper-personal. These days, the content of performances can be adapted night to night via artificial intelligence, such as is done in I Don't Even Miss You from Tiny Bear Jaws' Elena Bellier, Anna Cooley, and Toni Morrison. In this show, the background music soundscape and portions of the dialogue change from performance to performance. This happens based on interactions with multiple generative AI systems. What is happening in these co-creative productions? Well, we're using our human imagination to create art. Art is often a deliberate act of creation. It's our own mind that shapes what is once intangible into something more tangible. This transformation, this act, makes something real from something unreal. But art is artificial. In a way, it's not real. It is artifice. Artifice requires creative skill and intelligence, but it implies a falseness or a trickery. We create artifice as mirrors, which represent emotions or experiences connecting artists and audiences. And art is meant to evoke emotion and experience in both, and sometimes it evokes neither. But in this way, there's a duality between the authentic and the artificial in creative work. For example, a strong performance of sadness can evoke empathy and sadness in an audience. So it's a real piece of art and a fake performance of an emotion which evokes a real emotion all simultaneously. It's why I call this the artifice of imagination. Artificial intelligence allows us to explore this boundary between real and artificial like no technology before. There are countless examples of AI, especially generative AI, in the creation of new art in theater and film and beyond. These days, many artists are finding large image and language generation models useful in co-creative applications, as their ability to generate coherent text or coherent outputs improves. I catalog several performances here as relevant reference points of artists interacting with AI to create art. Some question what will happen when AI meets the stage and the screen. I believe that time is already here. Language models, such as recurrent neural networks and LSTMs or long short-term memories, have been used for theater and film production for nearly a decade at this point, as is seen in Beyond the Fence and Sunspring, both of which were from 2016. Similarly, chatbots, language models, and sentence encoders have been used for short film script generation and script writing for theater plays, as can be seen in Calamity AI's brilliant work on YouTube, as well as When a Robot Writes a Play 2021 and AI 2021, all three of which leverage the capabilities of GPT-3. And these are only the beginning, and a select sample of the beginning at that. Kendrick Lamar transformed into figures like Nipsey Hussle and O.J. Simpson and Kanye West using deepfake AI technology in the music video for The Heart Part 5 in 2022. And just a few months ago, ChatGPT received a co-writing credit on South Park. Also, recently, there was a popular Planet Money podcast which produced a 3-episode series about making a totally automated podcast with script, voice, interviews, and all. And just this month, Paul McCartney has said that he'll use AI to create the final Beatles song. We were able to take John's voice and get it pure through this AI, he said. And I'm confident that there's many, many, many more co-creative credits to come for AI. And it's not just going to be limited to the generation of text or audio mixing or mastering or deep-faked images or video. Generative AI can assist in development through ideation, concept art, script writing, or in post-production with actor de-aging or localizing film dialogue for international releases, and likely in many, many other areas of production, distribution, and licensing. And I'm excited to see these co-creative productions because I think that the creative arts, and specifically the theater, is a brilliant medium for experimentation. More specifically, I believe that improvisational theater is the ultimate testbed for novel creative technology. Why? Because it has all of the real-world challenges within safe, shared, imagined worlds. It's co-constructed live, in the moment, in front of an audience. The improvisational theater stage is a dynamic playground for interaction. It requires spontaneity and real-time responsiveness. It requires real co-presence, co-creative human-human or human-AI synergy. It's about doing something new from scratch for every show. There can be no overfitting, no rehearsal, and it happens live in front of the eyes and ears of the audience. And each of those audience members has a subjective preference and assumptions and assessments of the performance itself. Improv is created and performed simultaneously. It's one of the only art forms that is created and performed simultaneously. And through my years of experience and training, I've heard several common refrains, lessons that are echoed from Colin Mockery from Whose Line Is It Anyway, to Keith Johnstone and Patty Stiles of Theatre Sports, to Viola Spolin of The Second City, to Adam Megiddo and the whole crew at the Showstoppers. They say, improv is about accepting and expanding. It's about saying yes and to new ideas to co-construct scenes together. But my first and foremost lesson in improv, which Jacob Bannigan shared with me at that festival in 2015, is that good improvisers look good on stage, but the best improvisers can make everyone else look good. Improv is all about co-creativity. That is, the best co-creative partners are the ones that can uplift their other castmates. And it's required in improv, because with improv, anything can happen, and the show must go on. So you need to trust your fellow creative confidants. When Adam Megiddo told me in 2015 that I should get Piggy, the first artificial intelligence improviser, up on stage, he said that I should do it now, even if it's not ready. And it failed. In a lot of interesting ways, and the lesson is that you don't know how broken something is until somebody actually uses it. You can spend all day working on a technology, but until you actually get it on stage, you won't know what works and what doesn't. So iterate on artistic creation and AI development, and learn from trial and error in real-world applications. Fail faster and build resilience and adaptability in the face of imperfections and challenges. Foster collaboration and shared learning experiences between artists and technologists, because as I've found, often the most obvious thing for creative artists will be an easy improvement on the tech side. For example, after the 2016 show failure, my father suggested that all I have to do is add thinking noises after the speech recognition finished, just to cover up the time it takes to generate a response. And it worked magnificently. It even got a few laughs, and it was fun to use as thinking sounds. Getting to failure allowed me to observe obstacles and transform them into opportunities for improvement. The theater is a vibrant and literal stage for new and inventive ideas in art and AI. It's a place where fearless exploration is supported through creative dialogues and new worlds that are never thought possible. It's a safe space to take creative risks as it celebrates both success and failure. It happens through trial and error, in a metaphorical parallel to the way that machines learn, through trial and error. And it encourages discovery by accepting what is possible and then expanding and asking, what if? In my experience developing artificial improvisation and human-machine co-creativity, I've learned many lessons. How do humans and intelligent machines work alongside each other on the stage and in the writer's room? I present 5 principles of interaction which I believe are of critical importance when designing, developing, and deploying creative technologies in augmentative performances. First, joyful loops. Loops full of joy. When human-AI interaction is succeeding, this is what it can feel like for the humans involved. This is how it feels for me when I write an image generation prompt or a text generation prompt and then iteratively refine it and remix it until I get it just right. Prompt, response, and then it just works in an Improbotics show. Joyful loops represent the continued iteration of getting the show in front of an audience and then learning from and improving each subsequent performance. These loops on loops. These joyful loops of interactions build human attachment and connection and ownership to both the generated material and the prompts that help to generate that material. These loops are helpful to develop as a modular artistic skill to combine with other techniques of artistic expression. Second, live interaction is critical for human AI artistic performance. You can't fake co-creation. It requires genuine engagement and creativity with AI. You need to start interacting with it if you want a sense of what you can and want to create. Live performances also demand authenticity and effort and good, meaningful justification from the humans involved. And this means that you're working hard on making something work and keeping it on the rails if and when it doesn't. And you have to get it back on the rails when it doesn't. As was the case with my performance alongside Piggy when it said something rather blue and foul-mouthed to my chagrin. But it challenged me, and that failure taught me a lesson. So the best way to move past that very common feeling of a tech demonstration of a new technology is by working alongside the system in a performance context. Live interaction demands real-time responsiveness and low latency, and it provides an audience full of reactions and feedback. Third, reduce barriers. Human AI artistic performance demands low barriers to entry. The AI system must be waterproof for the stage. It must be easy to use and easy to set up and easy to take down and easy to interact with for the humans involved. Tools such as microphones and speakers and headphones and keyboards and laptops should be simple. The failure of these tools is much less interesting than the higher level creative failures of co-creativity. The creative tools, the generative AI model, should fit into the creative process. The training should be provided to the creative humans involved when applicable. As well, it should be made clear when generative AI tools are most helpful in the creative process. This might be strictly for ideation or development, or alternatively, they might only be useful for performance. In some cases, they might not be useful at all to tell the certain stories you want to be telling. Accessibility allows for a large number of individuals to use similar tools and then improve those tools for each other. So aim to be open. And these tools should encourage sharing and remixing of content. Fourth, new technologies can unlock new forms of artistic expression. This can happen in uncharted worlds, blending physical and digital, real and artificial, virtual and augmented. And AI can serve as a catalyst for revolutionary media and interdisciplinary collaboration. And it did. There's many examples of it happening with camera obscura and daguerreotype and photocopiers and fax machines and Polaroids and iPhones, iPads and digital art and many, many, many new technologies, new for their time, of course, which date back hundreds and even thousands of years. Fifth, creative AI tools should also serve the larger vision of the performance and never be the ends in and of themselves. In my opinion, it's one of the harshest reviews to receive. And I've received it. The tech was cool but unnecessary, or even worse, it was distracting in a given performance. Ideally, the creative AI would not distract, but serve a new form of artistic expression. The tools and techniques of human and AI co-creativity should complement the artists, the artistic expression, and the narrative. So focus on complementing, not competing. And in the same vein, the tools are aiming to digitize without displacing by offering optional augmentations. So aim for innovative expression through the blending of technique and technology in harmony. I'll now share two illustrative projects of mine that I think exemplify human-AI collaboration. First, Improbotics, a tech-infused improv show where lines from a large language model are fed to human performers via a headset for them to act out and physicalize. Improbotics has done over 300 shows around the world in Canada and the United States and Sweden and Belgium and Switzerland and the United Kingdom. The tools and techniques from Improbotics are used by theaters and performers around the world. We leverage chatbots and robots and language and image generation models, as well as multilingual translation and virtual composition for augmented reality for all kinds of shows and formats. Improbotics encourages interaction and adaptation between human performers and the various AI systems. Over the course of hundreds of shows, we've learned many lessons about what works from audiences and reviewers and critics and the performers themselves. Some of those include real-time interactivity and responsiveness and the importance of timing in comedy and embodiments of the AI and the speed at which they move around the stage, the size and the scale of projections, and the transparency of cognition, as I call it. That is, people want to see how the model is coming up with the responses. And we've learned a lot of lessons about what's required to make shows better. Namely, the humans in the loop are required for curation and for presentation, and pedestals are required for the robots because they need to sit at the level of human interaction. And we need backups for our backups, because those will inevitably be useful. And we've learned many things that can make a show go sideways, like a robot crashing and burning, literally, or a projector blowing out, or the internet, or power dropping. And through dialogue with dozens of artists, we've continued to develop and adapt and fail and learn to make new ideas come true. And we've heard how these systems are enjoyable to interact with and can enhance spontaneity and can improve improv capabilities. And if we had waited for the tech to be ready, the show would have stopped in its tracks, and we never would have unleashed creativity. And because the show must go on, now we can tell stories that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to. Dramatron is an interactive co-authorship script writing tool which leverages large language models. It uses a form of hierarchical generation and prompt chaining, as it's now called, to ensure long-range consistency across long scripts, like on the order of a theater script or a screenplay. How does it work? As an input, the human author provides a log line. A log line is like a brief summary that states the central conflict of the story. It often provides both a synopsis of the plot and an emotional hook to stimulate interest. From this single log line, Dramatron can be used to co-author an entire theater script or screenplay, complete with characters and plot and setting and dialogue that is all coherent and cohesive. Much like the 17th century inkwell, Dramatron is a technology to help tell stories. The system can be used with a language model of your choice from a collab that's shared on GitHub. That GitHub also has a link to the results of the 15 professional writer Dramatron user study. In the paper, we explored two questions. How can we generate more coherent stories? And are automatic story generation tools like Dramatron helpful and useful to creative professionals? We present results on how Dramatron can be used interactively for script and screenplay development. Participants identified multiple useful applications for Dramatron: inspiration, world building, source material searching, and one quote stands out. One expert said, "I like Dramatron because I want ideas that a human couldn't possibly have." Participants identified that the system is not quite capable of writing a complete work on its own, due to the logical gaps and some challenges with common sense reasoning. As well, participants noticed stereotypes embedded in the language model underlying Dramatron. The identification of these system weaknesses have led to continued ongoing development. As part of the Dramatron study, 4 scripts co-written with Dramatron were produced and staged by a professional writer and director and cast of improvisers at the Edmonton International Fringe Festival in August of 2022 in a show called Plays by Bots. The first half of each performance was scripted, and the second half was improvised. The expert author leveraged multiple co-authorship modes with Dramatron interaction and did a final rewrite on the script. The show received very positive reviews, and one noted that the success of the performance was due to the collaboration between Dramatron and the human actors, especially one actor who mastered Dramatron's voice and seamlessly took it off script for the remainder of the show, much to the delight of the howling audience. Dramatron and Improbotics are case studies in the evolving co-creative process. That is, the changing nature of creating art and the unique challenges that arise when working with artificial intelligence. As I consider the evolving landscape, I'd like to crystallize 4 points that I believe are critical to creative practice in the space. The first is the box. I call it the box. The box is important. The box is the frame or the border or the constraints. And once you build a box, it's easy to fill it. But it's critical to build it first, and it's hard to fill it otherwise. This means that you should set boundaries to help you make sense of the infinite artistic possibilities that this new technology affords you. Construct a framework by identifying constraints, and that will help drive focused creativity. Embrace the limitations and constraints. Inventive, creative thinking can happen within the box. And for me, that box is the intersection between artificial intelligence and improvisation, and the constraints are governed by real-time, interactive, improvisational theater. And there's a unique joy to exploring ideas and visions and connections in that box. Consider the changing nature of the circles of creation. We were created, each and every one of us unique with our own creative practices and processes. And from us come our creations, our artifacts. These are things that we create. We become creators. And now, from our creations come creations of their own. As we create generative AI tools, our creations are creating. We create creators. We generate generators. And this dance of creation is a creative process in and of itself. It's a cascade of creativity that can make masterpieces with each successive generation. Where does this spiral of ingenuity lead? I believe it's towards the collective conducting or orchestrating of multiple generative models across multiple modalities for new and interesting artistic media. But perhaps this recursive generation leads towards average garbage forever, as Kyle Chayka recently tweeted. Perhaps it leads to automating mediocrity, as my longtime collaborator Piotr Murawski calls it. I wonder if this recursion will play out more like the digital camera, which allows us to take many, many more bad photos, but to ultimately get a great one. Perhaps the trials and trials and trials in the trials and error are meaningful journeys for us to take, to create. Perhaps the pursuit of success through successive failure sharpens our creative impulse. Perhaps we can harness these AI tools for our own artistic growth and development to find our own latent greatness. But perhaps most of all, fourth, in regards to your creative practice, I'll urge you to dare to debut. Please embrace the unfinished masterpiece. Share your creations in their raw and imperfect states. It's not ready, and it never will be if you hold it too precious. Vulnerability is a superpower, and sharing your creations raw as they may be improves your creations and improves you. It'll improve your ability to move from failure to failure faster and to learn with each failure. Feedback can help you and your creations grow and refine and find broader audiences and collaborators. So forge your artistic identity by embracing risk, imperfection, and experimentation. And build your resiliency and adaptability as your art and you evolve. The show must go on if it's ever going to get better. Before I conclude, I want to take a moment to discuss the importance of transparency and control and consent in human-AI collaboration. When working with AI systems, I believe that one has a responsibility to do so in a way that is transparent to the creators involved. We should not aim to deceive or to trick or to manipulate. In Dramatron and in Improbotics, we focus on human-machine co-creativity, with humans in the loop, as a safe and responsible approach to staging generative AI systems in real-time, interactive performance environments. The humans, the designers, the developers, the creators, the performers are in control of the show, and they are ultimately responsible if anything inappropriate, be it language or image, is generated and presented to the audience, in the same way that they're responsible for the performance as a whole. We must craft a responsible creative future together. By inviting experts into the design process, by listening to their feedback, concerns, and taking their guidance into account, we are inviting them to participate. And if they don't want to, that's fine too. We should advocate for the transparency in human-AI co-creativity. Such creation should proceed in a responsible manner with respect for all of the stakeholders involved. The entire design process can and should be human-centric. Research, development, design, deployment, and dissemination should all be done with empathy to those affected and impacted by these tools and technology. We should uphold intersectionality for a richer, more vibrant creative landscape. Consent is key to participation in co-creativity, in the same way that it's true in any other production or creative organization. And it's true for all of the humans involved along the entire development and production process. For example, we can empower artists to opt out with withdrawals or refusals to participate processes. When working with artists in the co-creative development process, it is critical to acknowledge and credit the contributions of those artists and respect their rights to their intellectual property. We must also recognize the value of human contributions through fair compensation. So, where do we land? We can together celebrate the convergence of artistic expression and innovation. And I'll leave you with just a few brief conclusions and some opening questions for future investigation. We are all pioneers of meaningful human AI co-creativity, each in our own realms and domains and worlds, real or imagined or virtual or augmented. In co-creativity, there are many big open questions that we still don't know the answers to. Will AI systems ever understand and leverage the depths of human emotion and creation? How can human AI co-creative artifacts generate and maintain a profound connection with an audience? And I hope this talk ignites conversations and helps you forge new pathways and collaborations. I hope you found it inspiring and that it motivates you to debut. And I want to urge you to seek opportunities to experience and create alongside AI. So join the conversation and help shape the role that AI can play in the future of co-creativity. As a final provocation, I'll share a North Star. I imagine that one day I'll walk into a theater and I'll see two robots performing live on stage, and what a brilliant day that will be. But not only that, not only would there be robots on stage, they'd be performing to a room full of robots, and the lights and the sounds and the projection design would all be completely automated, and the entirety of the performance would be created by digital systems created for each other, I guess, live and in the moment. And in that moment, I would just be a fly on the wall peering in at this creation, at our creations that are creating with and without us. This talk pulls lots of thoughts from many projects spanning the last almost decade of my investigation and research and collaboration and performance, and many publications. I've listed some of them here if you're interested in learning more about some of my interests in co-creativity. This work wouldn't be possible without an incredible amount of collaboration from many brilliant artists and creatives and researchers around the world. If you remember one thing, remember this. It's important to debut because the technology is always getting better. This is literally as bad as it's ever going to be. And the show must go on. So thanks for your time, and I look forward to questions. Please reach out, connect with me on Twitter or over email to continue the discussion. Bye.
Hi, Kory. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Can you hear me okay?
Hope everyone else can hear you. So thank you so much for your talk. I thought it was fascinating and thought-provoking. What we're going to do now, I guess, is open it up to the audience for questions. So I have the microphone. So I'll be wandering around. So we'll have fun with this.
Sounds good.
Hello. All right.
Hi.
Okay. First, I want to say great talk, very inspiring. I want to sort of pick your brain a little. So, theater, improv, where do you think live streaming falls into all of this conversation? Because I've heard people say that live streaming on Twitch and other live streaming platforms is essentially improvisational theater. So I would sort of what's your opinion on how this all sort of falls together compared to traditional theater and how AI and live streaming works and sort of the chat and stuff like that?
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for the question. Also, I can't see you. So yeah, I'd appreciate it. Just let me know who you are and maybe your name or something. Then I can. Yeah.
My name's James Skrupchuk. I'm from North Carolina State in the United States.
Awesome. Thanks, James. So I think the question is a great one. And I'll preface it by saying that I'm not a live streamer. There's a few live streamers that I really like to watch. There's a few Twitch channels that I really like to watch. And I would totally agree with you that there is a world where Twitch streaming and even a lot of these podcasts these days that are more conversational are this sort of improv, yes, and let's go with the conversation until we get something. I think it is a beautiful art form, and it's an it's an evolution of performance, this live performance. There's certain performers that use like VTuber technology and different avatars, so they're live streaming, but they're like doing it through a digital puppet. I also think this is like totally a performance space. It's just a digital performance space. The lines between reality, like the physical theater where people are sitting on a plastic chair and they're sitting on their own chair in a distributed manner, is increasingly blurred when you have these like distribution networks like YouTube and TikTok and Twitch, where you can have a performer reach a broad audience. And what I really find inspiring is that you can capture audience engagement relatively quickly and high fidelity by the chat, this ongoing chat that can happen. So I've seen some streams where they would have language models that are supporting an ongoing chat, and then a Twitch streamer is sort of pulling from that, so that there's sort of an audience interaction with a language model happening in real time with the performer kind of interacting with the camera. There's also a few groups. I know Transitional Forms is a group in Toronto that produces digital scenes that are composed by large models, stitching together graphs, and then produce it as a Twitch performance. So like there are groups that are producing Twitch performances that aren't sort of just live streaming to the camera like I'm doing now, but rather produce like a Unity scene and then compose it using multiple models and multiple characters, and then produce a show that is sort of live directed by a human operator on a switcher. So yeah, I don't know if I talk completely to that, but I'm super excited about the space. I think it's really cool. And I think that the audience engagement is one of the most exciting things that I've seen, where you can have people voting to decide which way things go. Twitch Plays Pokemon is a good example of that. We'll start to see more of that with narrative and like live audience driven interaction.
Thank you.
No problem.
Oh yeah. Hi, thank you so much. I'm Zio. I'm from Georgia Institute of Technology in the States. And as also a co-creative researcher, I'm very interested, especially as you are also a great improviser from that perspective, about how you think about the human AI relationship in this co-creative environment when it comes to conflicts. So when we're talking about the ethical concerns of these systems, you definitely mentioned that human takes the final responsibility. So we would infer that human have the final say. And if human have the final say, then there is definitely a conflict resolving thing happening somewhere in the system. So I would like to dig more into hearing from your experience on this conflict resolution, and also want to hear from you about in the future. First, do you think whether we are doing good already? And second, is there any future direction that you would suggest from it?
Thanks, Shu. Yeah, I appreciate the question. Conflict is a very challenging thing, especially in live like improv performance, because conflict is a moment where there's a trust break in between performers or in between performer and audience. And it's a very critical thing to address immediately so that you can move forward, right? Improv is all about trust. And when there's a trust break, it really slows us down, and it almost like distances you from the audience. And in an improv setting, you are co-creating the performance with the audience, right? They give you a suggestion, you make a performance, and then you like have a dialogue about it. So I think that conflict resolution is something I'm like particularly kind of familiar with from the improv side. And like the first rule of improv is that you accept and expand, and you're trying hard to like avoid conflict, not dramatic conflict. Obviously, you're going to work together to have very interesting and engaging dramatic conflicts where characters have to make hard decisions, but like not the conflict of co-creativity where I have one idea and you have another idea and those ideas butt heads and then we, make friction. Rather, we want to be building on each other. So I don't think that there is sort of a meta capacity by these models in the moment to do that sort of conflict awareness and resolution or suggestion. But I'm starting to see, I think that some of these large models and their ability to review outputs and suggest edits to outputs is a bit of a step towards that. So you can imagine models that are going alongside a co-creative performance that are suggesting edits, changes, moments of conflict, and possible resolutions that are happening in the dialogue. So it could be analyzed in the transcript. So I don't think, I think that as performers, we do very good at conflict resolution and we work to like maintain trust, build and maintain trust. But are we doing it very well with these models and actually like embracing the capacity of them? I don't necessarily think so, or there's more that I think we could be doing. There's still moments where the audience is a little worried when the machine says something that isn't exactly aligned with the human. And in that, they're aware of that conflict, which means that they're not fully connected with the underlying dramatic conflict. But I do think that it is like absolutely critical to embrace all of the humans in the co-creative loop and have trust with all of them, because they are the ones that are ultimately, for now responsible for the subjective perception of the show from the audience. And they're the ones that will be, shaking hands with the audience after the show. So if there is a conflict that is broken, the trust is broken, it's on them to sort of own that and own the performance, own the show, and own what led up to it as well. But yeah, very interested to hear other ideas on the conflict resolution side if you have, or if others in the room have. Happy to hear that now or take it offline if there's more questions.
Oh, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much for the talk. My name is Brian Wilson. I'm also from NC State University in North Carolina. So my question is, I think you mentioned this briefly about the stereotypes, being careful of the stereotypes that may come from some of these AI systems. I'm just thinking that some of AI or some of art rather is completely neutral, but I think there's a lot of art that advocates for something. And so I guess my question is, how do you create systems, or have you even considered creating AI systems that helps to generate art that may advocate for a cause or advocate for a group, but is also not polarizing or breaches into stereotypes? Because I would imagine that would be like a fine line that you would have to balance.
That's a great question, Brian. And I think it's a very interesting and astute observation that a lot of art has this motive behind it, or sort of impulse behind it to advocate or to present a message that is compelling or that will resonate in certain ways. I'm reminded of, I'll just share one anecdote that I'm reminded of one of the participants in the Dramatron study who was reflecting on their ability to co-write with this tool. And they said something along the lines of, I like that it's able to have ideas that I wouldn't be able to have. Not that I wouldn't be cognitively capable of, but that I might be ostracized for if I presented it as a story in my voice, or that I was the one who wrote this character when it's not a lived experience that I had. They kind of appreciated the AI's capacity to have that sort of voice, or so that it could be presented and they could reflect on it. Now, that's their opinion, and I think it's a very interesting one. But I do think that what these systems can do is help all sorts of people tell all sorts of stories, and the personalization and shaping of the systems is very it's a growing capacity, so that we can use the tools to build, I don't know, a new presentation of our message to advocate on behalf of us or alongside us for our message. I don't think that the AI systems themselves are advocating for a cause that is of their own volition, but rather that it's an instrument that we can work with to then present ours. that might change. That might be a thing that changes. But for now, I think that we can use them to help tell our stories and different stories. And, you know, to that end, I think a lot of the systems and the way that they're trained and the way that they're prompted is conventionally Western narrative style based on this kind of text. And so even in our study, we heard a lot of people saying like, oh, this isn't at all how I would create a character arc. I would write it differently from the character's emotions and how they break and grow and change. And even that was like, oh, right, we're projecting this Western, you know, hero's journey onto storytelling. And that's not how all stories are. Anyway, lots of sort of different thoughts there, but yeah, curious to dig in more on that. Were you referencing AI systems that advocate for a cause on their own?
I guess just your thoughts on in general. So that too, but I think also like the augmentation that you were mentioning as well. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Brian.
Hi, thanks for the talk. I'm Brad Spenlev from Brigham Young University. One thing that I really liked from your talk that was really inspiring is that idea of making your debut. And I'm curious if you have any advice for how to do that, how to kind of sell the things we do to a public audience or get it out there into the world. I know your background is improv, of course, but maybe if you have advice for other domains.
Yeah, sure. Are you do you have a domain in mind? Just so I can maybe tailor it a bit?
Sure. Well, mine is my work has been in like text generation and most recently like playing competitive language board games.
Ah, cool. Right on. So yeah, thanks, Brad. You know, I think that debuts look different in all sorts of forms and formats. I'm a big fan of having like a trusted circle of what I would call sort of like personal critics that I'm comfortable sending things to. So like I have a very rough cut of this talk. I know exactly the 3 people I'm going to send it to, and I'll say, watch 5 minutes of it and tell me if it's weird or cool or what. And the sort of circles that I was referring to also, I imagine the sort of like orders of magnitude of audience that you're exploring interaction with. So like you start with yourself, like, are you building something that you are interested in, want to engage with? That's one person. Then you think about like, who are the 10 people that could give me real honest feedback that I would, you know, actually heed. And then what does 100 people look like? And then when I think of 100 people, like the biggest thing for me is like maker spaces, demo nights, hackathons, interaction jams, these sorts of things, where there's like a room full of people that are all presenting their kind of cool, new, weird, interesting idea, something that they want to try and test. And then, you know, you get 6 minutes and you go and present your thing. I sign up for one of those a month or something just to like present a new idea. And it keeps the deadlines coming, which is always helpful to have a bit of an external deadline for me, but it also keeps the like presentationality of it, of like, okay, I need to be able to tell a coherent story about this in 6 minutes in a month to an audience of people that don't know anything about language models or that sort of thing. So like, that's the physical space. I also think that like digital space is very helpful for this, like having a collection of people on Twitter or a Slack group or a Discord group where you can like riff is a very, I don't know, engaging space for me. So like the idea that I'm posting some stuff, I'm commenting on some other people's stuff, but finding your like cohort of remixers or riffers it is maybe a step in the right direction. And some of those are easier to make, some of those are easier to join. But yeah, orders of magnitude, go for in-person stuff. Don't be afraid to tell your story, as simple as it might be. And also the digital spaces.
Great, thanks.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question.
Sure. Thanks, Kate.
We have a lot of hands up.
Oh yeah, if there are extra ones, feel free to reach out. I'm at Kory Math on Twitter, korymath@gmail.com. If you can't remember that, you can hit me up at hotdog@google.com. Send messages and I'll keep the discussion going as you prefer. But back to you, Kate.
Yeah. So hi, Kory. I'm Luis. from Portugal. And yeah, I was thinking about what you said about failing faster and showing failures to the general public. And yeah, I was thinking, how does that kind of change impacts the view the general public has on AI? Because thinking about AI literacy and this scenario of AI calamity and AI winter, like floating between these two ideas, my question is, do you think this is good to show these failures to the general public for AI literacy and help people have a more realistic view on AI?
Great. Great question. So without a doubt, yes, 100%. I think it's very, it is one of the things that each of the people in this room can do is help present ideas, topics to our communities and our connections, friends, peers, mentors, groups, lab groups, about the state of affairs with these models. And I think that like education is one of the biggest challenges. Communication is going to be half of the challenge in AI. AI is about the technology, but it's just as much about getting the message out about the state of affairs. So when we started doing the Improbotics stuff back in 2016, 2017, like Adam Megiddo was like, people just want to know what the technology is capable of. You hear it like, it can do this and it can do this and it can do this, but like, go show them, just like, I know, Luis, that where the model is capable, where it's not capable, go show people that and let them know like what it can do, what it can't do, how it does what it does. That's education, and it's like a service we have the opportunity to do and present. So yes, I think it is very good to present this sort of thing to the general public. And I do think that it increases overall literacy because it's helpful, it's entertaining, and it is informing of the kind of state of affairs, which is changing relatively fast. And we're all becoming sort of ambassadors of that frontier of innovation.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Kory, I'm going to move to the front of the room so you can actually see somebody on the screen for a change.
Okay. Thanks. And I wish I could be there in person. Thank you so much for allowing me to join from my garden oasis of robots.
Well, thank you so much, Kory. I thought it was a fascinating talk. I'm going to encourage everybody whose questions we didn't have time to whatever the word is.
Get to?
Yes, thank you. To please reach out to Kory. I'm sure he would love to hear from you.
Yeah, 100%.
Now I have one announcement from the organizers. So we are going to have the lunch break in just a few minutes, but before lunch, they'd like to have a group photo. So could you please follow Joe Petrick, who's sitting right over here with the camera outside to get a shot, and then we'll begin serving lunch. Okay, thank you. Okay. So I think I'm still on a mic. Can I turn off the mic so I can chat with Kory about everybody hearing? Okay, I'll just chat. Oh, great, fantastic talk.
Let me unbroadcast you.
Okay.
Let's at least do that. Hi, Kory. Since we've never met, hello. It's nice